This video is sponsored by Solo Con Tutti, the free app that lets musicians play together over the internet. The Beatles' White Album was their first and only double album, featuring 30 tracks over 2 discs. However, despite featuring so many classic tracks, it's almost like on the White Album, for each solid gold classic,
Back in the USSR,
Blackbird singing in the dead of night.
Dear Prudence,
we also get given a forgettable throwaway song.
why don't we do it in the road?
Number 9, number 9, number 9.
So I've always been of the opinion that this fairly good double album could have been a solid gold single album, potentially the Beatles' best album. And this is actually an opinion that was shared by Beatles producer George Martin.
When they did the White Album, I thought we should have made probably a very, very good single album out of it, rather than making a double album. Could have been made a fantastically good album if it had been compressed a bit and condensed.
Ringo was of a similar opinion.
We should have put it out as 2 separate albums, the White and the Whiter album. A lot of information on a double album.
And George Harrison would have preferred if some of the weaker tracks had been released as B-sides instead.
What do you do when you've got all them songs and you want to get rid of them so you can do more songs? You know, there was a lot of ego in that band, and there was a lot of songs that should have just maybe been elbowed or made into B-sides.
As George mentioned there were some egos in the band. Those egos belonging to John Lennon and Paul McCartney, who weren't really keen on dropping any of their songs from the album.
You know, I'm not a great one for that. You know, maybe it was too many of that. Look, what do you mean? It was great. It sold. It's the bloody Beatles' White Album. Shut up.
But what if the White Album had been a single album? Which tracks would have been included and which would have been ditched? Well, it's known that George Martin was keen for Rocky Raccoon to be left out, but beyond that we don't really have any insight into which tracks would have been left on the cutting room floor. So today I thought it would be fun for me to walk you through the tracks that I would choose for a single disc version of the White Album. And perhaps in the comments you guys can leave your own selections. So we've got the 30 tracks of the White Album down the right hand side of the screen here, and we're going to make our selection. Only limit we've got is the runtime of the album. On a 12-inch vinyl record, you'd only approximately have 47 minutes of runtime. So that's our limit, and let's make our choice. So starting at the top of the list, back in the USSR, I think for me and for most people, I assume it's a no-brainer. That's going to make the cut. Along with that, Dear Prudence as well makes the cut, because I would say that's one of my top 10 Beatles songs. That's a great song. And it's nice to have both Back in the USSR and Dear Prudence, because they blend into each other on the record. So it's nice to keep them there. Glass Onion. I like Glass Onion. I'm not sure it makes the cut. I think that's one we might come back to if we have time left over. Obladi Oblada, similar situation. I prefer Obladi than Glass Onion, so I would go for that first. But still, I don't think it's going to make this first coal. Let's leave that. Wild Honey Pie, I think that's a fairly easy choice. It's basically just 50 seconds of nonsense. So yeah, let's leave that one off. I guess it doesn't eat that much into the runtime, but is it worth it? I don't know. Let's leave that one. The Continuing Story of Bungalow Bill. It's an alright track. It's not the Beatles' finest work. I think we leave that one. While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Now that is a classic, so that's going to make the cut. And in fact, I actually prefer the acoustic version of that song. I don't know if you've heard that. It was originally on the Anthology album, and then they added a string arrangement to it on the Beatles Love album, which that's the version I really love. So no pun intended. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to listen to that, I would say it's better than the original. But that said, we're going to have the original on our White Album. And next is Happiness is a Warm Gun, which I also love, so that's going to make the cut. Martha, My Dear, I like. I think I think we can afford to have Martha My Dear. I think that might have been one of the ones I'm on the fence about, but let's include it. I guess we could always take it off if we run out of time, but let's put it in. I'm So Tired. I like, not enough to put it on right now. If we have time later, I'll put that on, but yeah, I don't think that's a strong enough track to make this cut. Blackbird, on the other hand, is definitely a strong enough track. I think that's actually my favourite Paul McCartney song. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. So that's definitely on there. Piggies. I like Piggies. When I was younger, I wasn't very keen on Piggies, but I've grown to like it. But I think I'll leave it off for now. Once again, one that we will return to. Rocky Raccoon, on the other hand, though, I'm very much in the same boat as George Martin. I'm not going to put it on. It has a special place in my heart. It's not, all of the Beatles songs have a special place in my heart, but I don't think it can make the cut. Same applies to Don't Pass Me By. I'm sorry, Ringo, but we're going to have to pass on Don't Pass Me By. And why don't we do it in the road? I think that anyone who's heard that track knows that it doesn't belong on this cut, but it's just another one of those jokey songs they put on there. I Will. When I was younger, I used to think I Will was kind of a bit too simple, maybe a bit too much of a sort of basic. I Will was the sort of song that Paul McCartney would have written for the earlier albums. It's a bit like I'll Follow the Sun, but I actually really like it now. I've grown to like that one. I think that makes the cut. Let's put it on there. Julia, that's another no-brainer. I think that's one of the most beautiful songs that John Lennon ever wrote. Birthday, on the other hand, I don't like Birthday. I don't think it's good. Yeah Blues. I have a fond memory of Yeah Blues. When I was younger, when I was about 15, there was this big hill by my house, and I actually have a memory of I used to ride my bike down that hill as fast as I could, singing Yeah Blues at the top of my voice. So for that reason, it's kind of sentimental, but it's not the strongest track in the world. I think we should leave it off. I think we should leave it. It kind of pains me to do that, but let's leave it off. Mother Nature's Son. That should be on there. I love that song. I think that's a classic, sort of quaint, relaxing, folky Beatles song, a bit like Norwegian Wood or something like that. So let's keep that on there. And yeah, Everybody's Got Something to Hide. That's one where I wouldn't be heartbroken if we didn't include it. But we are doing quite well for time here. We've got 19 minutes 38 left, and we're over halfway through the list. So let's include that. Let's put that in there. Might regret that later, but let's put that in there. Sexy Sadie. It's a good song. It's not a great song. One of its greatest attributes is the fact that it inspired, or seemingly inspired, Karma Police by Radiohead. But beyond that, it's a sort of so-so John Lennon song. So let's skip that one. Helter Skelter, on the other hand, is an excellent song. I love that. It's definitely making the cut. I've always been surprised that that's a Paul McCartney song. It feels like the sort of song that John Lennon would write, but it just shows how eclectic Paul McCartney could be as a songwriter. And also it has the accolade of arguably being the first ever heavy metal song. So that's pretty cool. Long, Long, Long. That's a cool song. I think if that had been earlier in the list, it might not have made the cut. But now that we're here near the bottom of the list and still with 13 minutes left, let's include that one. That's a good song. Revolution 1. It's kind of just the inferior version of Revolution, isn't it? The single version is just so much better. And it's a shame that back when the Beatles made these albums, they had this policy of not releasing singles on the albums because they felt like they were almost like ripping off their fans who had already bought the singles. They didn't want people buying the same song twice, basically. But actually, George Martin said years later that that was actually kind of a mistake, really, and they should have put the singles on these albums. Because not only would that mean that Revolution was on this album, but it would also mean that Hey Jude is on the White Album, because Hey Jude was recorded in the White Album sessions. And really, if it was recorded today, if you had Revolution and Revolution 1 recorded today, Revolution 1 would have definitely been like a bonus track, like an online only collector's edition sort of track. But back in the 60s, it made the cut for the real album. But not today. Honey Pie. Honey Pie is a classic example of your Paul McCartney granny music, as John Lennon would call it. Attempt to mimic the old music hall style, sort of jazzy theatre music. I think we can skip that one. Savoy Truffle, I've said before, is one of my least favourite Beatles songs, so that's getting ditched. Cry Baby Cry, I really like. I think that's a good song. An often forgotten about song, I would say. And I really think you can hear the blueprint of Britpop in that song. Because if you listen to the piano tone or the guitar tone, it's like something from a Ocean Colour Scene record or a Blur record or something like that. So that's making the cut. Revolution 9, I think it's no surprise that that's not going to make the cut. We couldn't even fit it on now. We've only got 7 minutes 30 left, and Revolution 9 is over 8 minutes long. But, even if we could fit it on, I think, why would you use 8 minutes up of your album with that? No offense, John. It's an interesting piece of music, but, maybe not album worthy. And Good Night is a sweet song. It's a nice little Ringo moment, but I don't think we need Good Night on there. I think it doesn't make the cut. So that's the list. We've still got 7 minutes and a half left, though. So let's revisit some of the ones we skipped past. I think the track that I skipped past earlier, which I was really in two minds about, was Obla Di Obla Da. So let's include that. That takes our time to 4 minutes and a half. So what songs could fit on here? Well, they all could fit on. They could all fit apart from Revolution 9, which we've already written off. Or we could get two songs. If we went for one of the shorter ones, like I'm So Tired, Piggies, Glass Onion, we could have two of them. So let's do that. Let's have Piggies and I'm So Tired. I think we can leave Glass Onion. And that takes us to 20 seconds left. So I think that's a pretty good use of our time. So that's my selection. I'm pretty happy with that. I think the only thing I would say is that I would want to reorder the tracks. So maybe I'll do that in a second. And the other thing I wanted to say is, of course, it's not like I want these rejected tracks to have not been released. I think that would be a real tragedy. But I like what Ringo was saying. I think they should have been released as a secondary sort of bonus album, which I think is what would have happened if this had been released today. I think that would be more the approach they would take. But anyway, give me a second and I will put these tracks into the running order that I think would work well. Right, so I've spent a few minutes reordering these tracks, mainly considering how the album would begin and end. So the beginning, I've kept it the same as the classic White Album, as the original White Album, with Back in the USSR and Dear Prudence, because I think Back in the USSR is a great opener, and as I mentioned earlier, Dear Prudence has to go after it because they are connected. Then I considered what should go at the end. So I think Helter Skelter would be a great fit for the end, because not only is it such a climactic track, but I like how it sort of fades in and out at the end. It kind of has a fake ending, so you almost get tricked into thinking the album's over. And then at the very end, you get the classic I've Got Blisters on My Fingers from Ringo, which is would be a great way to end the album.
I got blisters on my fingers!
And also, just to finish off, I made this as well, which is the White Album. So that's all of the tracks that were rejected from my cut of the White Album. And I also thought it would be nice if this had this running order, where we've got Revolution 1 at the beginning and Revolution 9 at the end, which means not only have you got that nice symmetry there, but it also means that Revolution 9 can be at the end as almost like a bonus track, so you don't have to listen to it if you don't want to. Thank you to Solo Con Tutti for sponsoring this video. Solo Con Tutti is a free app that allows you to make music with other musicians over the internet with minimum latency. Typical video conferencing services like Zoom have far too much audio lag to allow for music making, but Solo Con Tutti allows up to 12 musicians to come together over the internet and make music together. As I said before, for a limited time, Solo Con Tutti is available completely free of charge, so do go check it out if you're interested. And as always, a massive thanks goes to everyone who supports me on Patreon, including the names you see on screen right now, and Andre Sainz Diaja, Andy Deacon, Andrew Sussman, Austin Barrett, Austin Russell, Bob McKinstry, Boo Medell, Whitney Parker, Cameron Allvilla, Colin Aiken, Chris Cabell, Christopher Ryan, David Bennett is Hart, David Rivers, Donald Howard, Dr. Darren Wicks, Elena Skorchenko, Eugene Leroy, FD Hodor, Greg Kabowski, Ilamola Toner, Hamish Brocklebank, Hernick Kutcher, Hugo Miller, Ivan Pang, Jake Fisher, J.A. Hookensparger, John Dye, Josh Sanderlin, Justin Vigor, Mark Sotera, Mark Ziegenhagen, Max O'Keefe, Melody Composer Squared, Melanie Schonert, Michael Vivian, Nathan Lawrence, Nathaniel Park, Nick Chang, Paul Middleton, Paul Muller, Paul Pazel, Peter Dunphy, Richard Bride, Roger Clay, Sadia Carone, John Kennedy, Steve Daly, Stephen Lazaro, Tim Beaker, Trisha Adams, Tim Payne, Victor Levy, Vidad Flowers, Vladimir Kodakov, Volti, the Washington Shakespearean Festival, Waylon Fairbanks, and Zaphod.